Let technical people do what technical people needs to do. Let the product help us do that. It's crucial. If a product lets sell, the product must do the job. But do not let the salesperson guess what's going on, because you will lose them. And also, what are they going to do when they first meet the customer? They're going to look uninformed. They're going to look ill-prepared. And that's not their fault. That's the company's fault. So that's how we motivate. That's what we motivate people here to stay in the game, because a lot of them are going, am I still needed? Of course you are, just in a different way.
Welcome to Hold the Churn, the show where we go behind the scenes with the sharpest minds in revenue to decode what's changing, what's timeless, and what actually drives growth in 2025 and beyond. I'm Chandrika, co-founder of Quivly AI. At Quivly, we're building AI agents and data enrichment platform for post-sales teams. We help you identify and act on signals to expand and retain existing customers. Today's guest is Gus Byleveld. Gus is currently the Chief Revenue Officer at JourneyApps. He's a GTM operator who's built revenue engines from the ground up across sales, customer success, revenue operations. And Gus has led cross-functional teams at technical B2B companies, knows how to design systems that are not just efficient, but durable. Gus, welcome to the show. I'm excited to dig into how you think about building revenue machines that actually work. So let's start with a quick intro, Gus. Could you share what's your journey been like to JourneyApps and where you're at in your career right now?
Yeah, I guess as you can hear from my funny accent, I started life in South Africa. I'm a serial revenue generator. Held jobs in sales, account management, strategic account management, and then moving more into the actual management of sales to where I am today, Chief Revenue Officer, fancy title, but really passionate about getting all the components of a go-to-market team to work together for the benefit of the customer. So yeah, I've been in a few startups. Some failed, some are successful, and enjoying every moment of it. It's so fun to get something new, something the market's never seen before, and to go and find out if the market actually wants it. It's huge fun. So, yeah, that's where I'm at, based in Colorado right now, and that's where the JourneyApps headquarters are. But citizen of the world, I've lived in many countries and have the pleasure of having experienced different cultures in sales and management, etc. So it really helps with today's world that's so interconnected.
Because your energy, your drive to learn new things is so contagious. I still remember our first conversation, and ever since then, every conversation we've had, I've learned something new from you.
Well, thank you. Lifetime students, I think we all need to be. We can't sit still. Market's moving too fast, and we'll become obsolete. So for sure, definitely a philosophy of mine. Yeah.
So my first question to you is going to be around how you've lived the full GTM stack, right? You've been through sales, you've been in solutions roles, customer success, ops. What's a common misconception you think people have about how those functions should actually work together?
Yeah, I'd actually add marketing and the BDR, SDR role to that as well, just for completeness, I guess. I think everybody probably listening to this has read the books and understand how important it is for the go-to-market effort to work together, right? But I think a lot is lost in us thinking about it as a cooperative type of environment. That's not good enough anymore. It really needs to be an environment where everyone in every team understand what the other team's doing. They all understand the mission. They all understand their roles in the mission. They understand their own objectives in that mission. Almost like, example, I'm a salesperson trying to close a deal. I have to think about customer success that's coming after this. And what data do I need to record? We'll talk about that later, I guess, with regards to the tools and all that kind of stuff. You guys are experts with that. But we need to think about each other. And then we need to behave in a way that the customer is seeing the same behavior, whether it's a SDR up front or a engineer at the back doing support, needs to look that they don't have to repeat themselves. We have all the data, and our, at least in my opinion, singular mission is to keep them happy. Because these things I'm talking about is not commodities. This is not going to buy a cell phone. If the salesperson doesn't treat you well, maybe you still hook to the brand and you buy the same one afterwards. In our world, solutions are complex. People normally invest in them for years. They don't do it for a couple of months. They want to be sure they made the right decision. They want to feel loved. They want to know that you got their back when you do these things. And I think having the team working together on that level is crucial. So being able to pass an email on and say, have closed the deal, you need to do this, it's just not good enough. We really have to work as a team. Difficult to build because everybody has their own objectives, everybody wants to do their own thing, etc. But with clear communication from leadership, clear discussions about this is your objectives, this is what you can expect in this role. Sometimes you have to compromise, but you can't become toxic. Those kind of dynamics have to be discussed with everybody on the team right up front and continually. And remember, we often working with degreed people here, 4-year degrees, advanced degrees. They pretty much know what they want. So you just need to get them to tell you and match that with how we work as an entire team. And I think for me, if I have to do all the priorities that I have for go-to-market, that's probably one of the most important ones that needs to be in place. Now, we can talk for hours about the science behind this and how you do this and the playbooks you set up and the objectives management. That's typical management stuff, which your listeners would know how to do, but getting this sort of agreement between everybody in place is so important. Reduces friction and get the customer to relax in your presence.
Yeah, this idea of every team owning part of the same mission instead of just passing the baton feels super underrated. And yet there are many orgs that still operate in a handoff model, especially when they're growing fast.
Yes.
Most revenue orgs are obsessed with growth at all costs, and you've built systems that are sustainable, not just fast. What's something you think fast scaling teams tend to skip that comes back to haunt them eventually?
Give salespeople an incentive plan that also incentivizes behavior as opposed to just money. The salespeople are probably the pivotal thing here, right? To get to the deal, etc., etc. Of course, they need the leads, they need all that kind of stuff, and we need to look after the customer. But where I've seen the most destruction is salespeople just working for themselves. And that is what a salesperson is. They want to make money. And we need to create an environment where they make money. But they have to know that they have the responsibility to set up everybody else for success. They have to know that. And it can't just be lip service, it has to be measured. Excuse me, if we ask a salesperson, be nice and tell the customer success people what you've done, it'll never work. There needs to be an incentive, there needs to be a reason for them to want to do this, to need to do this. And the other thing, watch the churn from day one. And I think you guys are building the systems to show us what's happening, right? But from a relationship perspective, we have to go, why did this customer buy from me? What did they want to achieve? Why do they want to achieve this? We have to know those answers to those questions. And that needs to be in the account plan. Now I know people are going to tell me, I have 700 customers, I can't have an account plan for everybody. I agree. But you can, in a system somewhere, answer those 3 questions. And if you've answered them, then everybody working with a customer will look at those and understand what our objectives are and naturally trying to service that, because they will be different from customer to customer. They are not born equal. And if we have that, the answers to those questions, using churn prevention, churn detection engines can be calibrated towards that. And that helps us a lot. So we close, we're doing well, everybody's happy, everybody's great, and we lose them at the back door at the same rate. Cannot happen. We all know the old thing about servicing an existing client and growing them is cheaper than finding a new one. It's true, and it will become more true. I also think sales intelligence is crucial. We use a tool called Gong. I have no affiliation. I'm not a salesperson. But it's integrated well into our team, which means every interaction is recorded. The AI on top of that is really good. If a customer success person want to know what we told a customer or prospect, they ask and they get the answer. We should use these tools to help us operate as a team and to have the information available. I so know salespeople don't want to capture stuff. They don't want to write reports, all that kind of stuff. We make it easy for them. Record it. And everything happens from there. It really helps a lot. But in summary, check the back door. If customers are leaving as fast as you're signing them, that's a problem. Understand why the customer bought from you. Those kind of questions that I've mentioned. Understand it and document it. And then whilst we grow, we can form an opinion about, do our customers differ or not? And what is the propensity for them? If somebody says to you, why did I buy this? Well, it's a stopgap for 6 months. If that's not recorded, we're going to be surprised in 6 months when they churn. We need to know those things. We need to know the customer really well. So maybe a bit of a macro explanation. There's a ton of do's and don'ts at the bottom, but really that's my philosophy around that.
Yeah. I'm sure you've heard this saying, what gets measured gets managed. And it's so applicable in the context of whether it's incentives for your sales teams or tracking what was promised to customers. Because that gap between promise and delivery especially gets even wider when the product's technical sometimes.
Yes.
So now, sort of segueing into your roles, right? You work closely with technical teams while staying deeply commercial yourself. How do you bridge that business to technical gap without having to take away the nuances and the value props or the things that your customers should appreciate about the product?
Very carefully. Believe me, I've tried a few things in my life, and the one I've settled on that really serves me well is I will never try and ask a technical person to dumb down their response so that I can understand it. It's doing an injustice to them because, as you say, the subtleties and the nuances will disappear. And it's doing an injustice to me because I'm not getting to the bottom of what the value is of the technical, etc., etc. So the methodology I follow, and I've been lucky in this sense that on the technical teams, there's always been somebody that's got the ability to behave on both sides of the line. They're deep technical and they can speak business. And I seek them out because I want them to be my translator. So when we have sessions about the technical team coming in and explaining all this wonderful stuff they built and explaining the technical value of that, I then change the conversation to, so what's the business value? Why should a customer buy that? And that translator can help facilitate that discussion. And what I then get is I don't lose the technical importance of this because we do need to communicate it to the customer, but I gain the business reasons why this is great. They would use it this way. That would give them this benefit. That could cost them this or save them this or have this value. Now everybody has a nice playbook to say those things. We can give it to the salespeople, we can give it to the SDRs, we can give it to the customer success people, and we can trust that it's true. The salesperson can talk about these things ethically and with confidence because they know it's true. It may be that they don't understand it. That's not relevant. They know that we've given them stuff that they're not going to land themselves into trouble. And when the customer asks different questions, they go, I'll get you an engineer, and they'll talk to you about that. So I have tried asking technical people to dumb things down so that I can understand it. The only thing that happens in that environment, I lose them because they lose respect. And they're going to work on their own there in the corner and do whatever they want. And we don't want that as an outcome for our organization. So I share with you the scars on the back. It's not something I realized when I was 25, but I've been privileged to get it wrong many times. And this is the sort of methodology I'm using right now. And to an extent, it works really well. There's still problems with it, but it's the best one I could come up with in my career. So if others have more thoughts around that, I would love to hear it, but that's my view of it. So, yeah.
Now, I love this idea of finding a translator, not simplifier, so that you can still appreciate the nuance, because the nuance matters, especially
Totally
when
matter.
the teams are layering in tooling and processes.
Yeah.
Now, speaking of tooling and processes, you've probably seen a lot of teams over automate or over process earlier than they should. What's your rule of thumb for when to introduce tooling, segmentation, automation, processes?
I've over-engineered them as well, not just see them. So, yes, we all have a propensity for this is tough, let's automate it or get a process in place or something like that. My rule of thumb right now is look at something when the manual process breaks. And when a manual example, we're early days, we're scaling, we need to have a single view of the customer, the CRM holy grail, etc., etc. And it's too difficult for the salespeople to get to because they have to use 4 systems to get there. And they drop the ball because I can listen to their calls that they have with customers. I can ask the AI to tell me what the problems were. Clearly, and almost inevitably, too many systems create issues, right? So how do we fix that? We integrate in a way that works for the salesperson. And please don't over-engineer it. The salesperson may say, all I want to do is press a button and get this. Then I'll give you a button, you get this. I'm not going to give you more or less. Is that solving the problem? Yes, it broke. It's not broken anymore. Right, let's move on. What is the next thing that's going to break? I've learned to never assume that if a salesperson asks for that button, they also need this one, this one, this one, this one, and this one. No, you're going to spend money on doing all of that, and the salesperson is going to say, I don't want that. I want this. So fix it when it's broken, when it actually breaks. People are very fearful of that because if it breaks, you may lose a customer. If you've built a proper rapport with your customer and there's mutual trust and they understand what you bring to the table and you create a little bit of a boo-boo because of a system, you won't lose that customer. But if you're a fly-by-night and talking out of your ears and doing that kind of stuff, then you have probably reason to worry that your customer will leave you if you get something wrong. Fix it when it's broken. Don't sit there and say, the playbook the consultant gave me for my SDRs says I need to have these things in place. I'm still scaling. This consultant is talking about a mature team. I'll take that as a reference, but I'm not going to put all of the stuff in place. And early on, I did that. You got these consultants in that says, this is your playbook. And I go, okay. And then I follow the playbook step by step, and I still fail. So for me now it's a reference. If I want to get a playbook from the outside, prefer to build my own, done it a few times. But to your question of over-engineering, automating, all that kind of stuff, my heuristic is fix it when it breaks.
Yep. As they say, if it ain't broken, don't fix it.
Right.
So that brings me to my next question, which is how do you actually diagnose what's broken before rushing to fix it? What's a mental model or framework you find yourself using again and again when something's off in the revenue engine?
For context, I'm a serial entrepreneur and my thinking is totally optimized for that. So when faced with a problem, churn's getting out of hand or there's leakage on the pipeline or something like that, my first inclination is go back to first principles. First principles gives you the ability to think about things without being attached to the current things. so that you throw good money after bad, stuff like that. So go back to third principles. We have a pipe leaking. What was our original assumption about our pipeline? What was the assumption about how long something will be in a certain stage? What was our assumption about the amount of fizzling we'll get or deals lost, etc.? What was that? Now the question is that still true? Because based on this data, it may not be. Okay, what is the current data telling us? All right, it's saying that 20% of our opportunities are fizzling at this stage after 2 months of being in the pipeline. Why is that? Go back to the conversations the salespeople had. Ask the AI tool to tell you about that specifically, and it will. Now you have the data. Are we saying something wrong? Or was the customer not serious? Or didn't we may not have qualified properly because we were scared to ask a question. The question is, are you going to buy when these things are true? When are you going to buy? Do you have the budget? Somebody else have it? You know, those age-old, old-school sales questions, they still need to be there. I'm talking in the context of pipeline bleeding. But go back to the first principles and then see the empirical data that says, this is what's causing that bleed. Then talk to your team and say, I'm spotting this. What do you guys think? Do you see the same thing? Do you see something different? Now, how do we plug it? We plug it this way. We ask 4 more questions in this call and in that call because we have the recordings. Run the experiment quickly, 2 or 3 weeks, no longer. Does it have a difference? Does it see a difference? Well, we tell each other we can't because this thing still have to be in the pipe for 4 or 5 weeks. Okay, I'll be patient. I'll wait that long. Or no. That's an excuse. There should be some underlying factors that tell us that things move, etc. Educate the salespeople to think about this. Education, learning, testing, failing, without breaking the whole business. Go back to first principles. It helps everybody to not be attached to the stuff that they apparently do so well.
Yeah. I think to diagnose a lot of problems, as you said, the experimentation, hypothesis-driven approach can work. And breaking down what that vague revenue problem is into more specifics is super helpful. Now, let's talk about a place where vague thinking does real damage, which is around pricing. You're on usage-based pricing model at JourneyApps yourself. At JourneyApps, in your experience, what's the most overlooked consequence of pricing complexity that you only realized later and appreciated, especially with respect to post-sales teams, customer success, revenue operations, etc.?
The customer won't buy. The model we are at now in this venture is an incredibly simple one. You're going to have 10 users per month, you're going to pay this. That's it. Does the customer understand the pricing intuitively? Can they explain it to their children? We've had, trust me, in this journey of 15 years, we've had pricing models that included credits for professional services. What was the problem with that? Well, we disconnected value completely out of that equation. So customer know they can get X for 5 credits, but they don't know how valuable it is. They don't know that it's actually $5,000. Failed miserably. Well, the other reason it failed miserably is because we locked in a standard rate, and after 3 years we didn't get increase in that. So you all may say, I could have told you that up front, and great, but I still made the mistake. The customer needs to be able to say, oh, wow, yeah. So if I have 100 customers, I'm going to pay this. Yes. I can't pay that. Okay, why not? Now we are in a discussion. But if this pricing model for this product is so complex that the customer needs a PhD to understand it and you need 2 PhDs to explain it, it will fail. Customers won't buy. That is the most direct, severe consequence of getting the stuff too complicated. Now, we can talk for long around when you're a startup and you scale, etc. How do you get to this pricing model? Through dialogue. You'd ask your customer, how would you like to buy this thing in the early days, right? Customer development. How would you budget for this? What could you get approved? All those kind of things matter before you start putting product pricing in place that you can test. By the time you unleash the salespeople on it, you have to have real confidence in it. It needs to make sense to customers, and salespeople need to be able to understand it. And then there's the subtle thing for salespeople, and that is, I sell this, it costs this, my commission is going to be this. Boy, I see a lot of corporates and talk to my sales colleagues where a salesperson commission really is a formula that you can launch space shuttles with. It is so complex. And okay, they've been given tools and stuff like that, but it frustrates them. I understand corporates are very, very complex, and that's why I don't work for them. But in smaller organizations and startup and fast-moving companies, make sure that your revenue generators understand what's in it for them.
How do you think about costs with respect to, customers using more of the product and it cutting more of the cost because you are passing on the underlying costs eventually to them?
Well, first we have to determine what the cost is. I assume you are talking about the cost of sale, the cost of engagement, all that kind of stuff. One of the things I've learned early in my startup career is that your CFO is your best friend. And they are very, very good at telling you what the cost of sale is at every single stage that you're going through. One thing I know for sure, in the early days when you are catching your lighthouse customers, you may be scaling to $1 million, etc., you and your CFO have to agree that cost of sale is kind of irrelevant. Though they don't like to agree to that. But you do, because I'm going to sell this thing as a loss because I'm learning, I understand what to do, what not to do, etc., etc. But above that, you're my friend, right? Tell me what the typical cost of sale is if this and this and this and this is true. And then we need to start understanding how can we reduce that, because that's their objective. They're a critical part of this revenue generation go-to-market environment. If you don't have their buy-in, they'll beat you up 7 ways from Sunday, and it will become a real frustration. But they also need to understand your set of potential obstacles you're working with. And I tried to do it without them, initially got beaten up. And then when you do it with them, they've got so much knowledge. They can tell you, well, why don't we do this? Well, what about this? Try this thing, move this, etc. Really helps in identifying your ability to actually sell this thing and make money. And by the way, that's part of product market fit, right? At the end of the day, if we can sell this thing at scale, but we're going to lose money every time we sell it, there is no point, right? So there's a lot of things that comes into play. Self-evaluation, salespeople don't do demos, things like, tons of things come into play. But I want to work in a world where I'm not bothered by cost of sale when I'm figuring out the first million, and CFO must be on board with that, and then work with them to actually understand how do we optimize this thing going forward.
Makes sense. Well, let's talk about everyone's favorite topic right now, AI. So how do you see AI being useful to revenue teams, and how you all at JourneyApps are right now using AI in the revenue function?
The old AI thing, right? Well, I say old. It feels like it's been around forever, and promises have been made, and not a lot has been delivered. But let's look at the specific for revenue generators, for go-to-market folks, right? Again, let's talk about salespeople first. Forever in my life, the number one complaint has always been, I'm working on too many systems. It takes me hours to capture things, etc., etc. AI for me has reached a level where I can take that burden away from them. I can have sales intelligence tools, I can have recorders, I can have many other things around them integrated with their CRM, that when they say something, email something, not think something yet, but that's recorded and we can get a picture of that. And they do like it. They like it a lot. SDRs like the tools that can help them aggregate prospects, and depending on what your tool is of research when you try and find new people, and there's many out there, the tools can help them to aggregate these things, to filter things, etc. So they don't have to go, I'm looking for this company, I'm looking for this director, I'm looking for this name. No, they can actually run a script and there it is, done. It helps them save a lot of times. Customer success people, well, again, I want to know what somebody said to this customer. I want to know what their setup is. I want to know, are they coding today? I can use a level of AI interface to tell me those things. I don't have to dive into the onboarding system on the platform to see if they're coding. I can abstract all of them. Those things help, and they help really well. Here's how I think about AI. I believe AI is another member of your team, and it has a persona. Now, people, my colleagues, when I speak to them about that, they laugh and they think I'm a nut. But here's why I think it has a persona, right? The effect of AI on your people is real, whether it's good or bad. In my opinion, I want to treat them as a persona, that thing, right? So this thing is behaving in this way, and it's having a negative effect on this person. Why? I wouldn't tolerate that if I appointed a person and they have that negative effect. Why do I tolerate it from AI? So if AI is not fit for purpose, it goes. It doesn't matter what a promise is. But if it works and people come back and say, I want to use it, then I'm saying your AI team member is serving its purpose. I'm not calling it a name. I still know it's inanimate and a thing, but it has a persona, it has an effect on the team, and that's how I think about these things. They can help. AI is great. There's a lot of ways it can help. But if it becomes a burden, or the big thing I got a problem with, we've got an AI responding to some customer support tickets now. The thing is, it doesn't have empathy. Unless I code empathy in there. But I don't know how to code empathy. Neither does my developers. So unless AI gets to the point where somebody can explain to me how to include empathy in there, I'll use it maybe for the first responder, but not after that. Because the customer want to know that somebody's actually thought about this. Not sending them a smorgasbord of frequently asked questions and a FAQ to go and look at themselves. No. I understand you, I hear you, and here's my response. Let's talk. So I know I'm out there. Some of my colleagues think I'm a total nut, but this works for us. This philosophy works really well for us, and people are happy to allow this additional team member that comes with this reputation. They can do everything. Well, they can't. That's the reality. To allow this team member into their team and trust it to help them to be faster, efficient, better customer service, all that kind of stuff. All about the philosophy. Happy to defend it at length with anybody that disagrees with me. You don't have to, but this is how we look at it for sure.
Yeah, I mean, you got to have a risk evaluation framework. If the risk is not worth the reward, then, it totally makes sense for you to be a little bit more conservative with where and how you use different technology. It's AI today, it could be something else tomorrow, it was something else the last few decades. What's your favorite use case that AI has unlocked, though, that you think wasn't possible before AI?
I think we're getting a huge financial benefit and stress relief on the customer success team by the AI tool triaging our support. It tells us what it's about. It goes and fetch all the information on the platform about what is the customer app, what is it written in, how many developers do they have, how many people are using it. And in the past, I have seen this request from a customer, and this is how we solved it. All there. That cuts down sometimes hours of somebody that have to sit there and wade through all these things and then find the problem because they don't know it's been solved before, and then send something to the customer. It's just incredible what the sort of AI layer can do for us in that world. It is, in that scenario, I think the AI persona I'm putting in my team is a real super person. But yeah, it's just demonstrable savings and demonstrable reduction in stresses for the team because of their workload and things they have to go through, etc., etc. Now, now we want them to do more, but, that's all a discussion with the team, and make sure that we don't put them in that scenario where they always were, which is easy to burn out, all those kind of things. What is the steady state with this new persona that we can achieve, and you're happy and we're happy and the customers are happy? That's a discussion for the fine-tuning part, for sure.
Yeah, I'm always fascinated by how different teams are using AI. What are the new use cases that we can learn from? We're building an AI first company, but there's so much out there to learn that I feel like if you're not spending time with people who are using it for real use cases and actually getting into the tactical pieces and implementation of it, it's hard to make sure that you are optimizing for AI the way it works for you and in your business workflow. So thanks for sharing that.
Sure.
Now, let's shift to something very human, earning trust, especially with technical buyers. In your experience, Gus, what does it take to earn trust with these technical buyers?
Get the salesperson out of the way. Again, controversial statement. For all of us that grew up in sales, right, we're used to not talking about commodity, talking about solutions, complex stuff. We're used to being the sort of the center of the universe, right? Everything revolves around us. We have a playbook of telling people what the system will do. We speak to those people, buyers, etc., etc. The world I operate in now for the last decade and a half is very much the world of product-led sales. Of course, we all have opinions about product-led sales and product-led growth. Some companies made it, insanely successful, LinkedIn, those kind of people. But has it yielded all the promise that it was sort of made out to be a decade ago? When I read the literature, it not necessarily is the case. There's some outliers that made it really great, but the fact is, if you're selling a technical product, the product needs to sell. And that means that if you have a technical person engaging with it, that technical person needs to be able to self-evaluate. They need to understand things easily. The documents must be easy. They need to they need to sign up in 2 seconds flat. Don't burden them with emails and nonsense like that. Get them to engage with the product. But give the salesperson the ability to see what they're doing. There's nothing more a salesperson hates than being told by the sales manager, don't worry about that. When that person is ready to talk, the engineer will tell you, no. You want to see what they're talking about. You want to see what they do. Now, of course, it's an engineer to an engineer. That's great, because the salesperson can add no value. In fact, they can just mess it up at that stage in evaluation. But they want to see what's being said. What is the potential customer saying? What are the obstacles here? Then I go and talk to my product manager and I say, hey, this, there's your dashboard, but 17 customers said this. Can you please, think about this? It relieves the salesperson with a measure of feeling in control like we used to be. Because we're still very important. Because at some point, somebody's going to ask us how much this thing costs. And that world, especially with complex products, comes with politics, comes with procurement, comes with all that stuff that didn't all of a sudden disappear because it's a technical evaluation. But they can't walk into that blind. They do need to know what the outcome was. They need to know what's happening there, etc., etc. So tongue-in-cheek, I said, get the salesperson out of the way. It just means that, in those first meetings, they're not going to sit there and pitch PowerPoint or decks or something like that. But they have to know everything that's going on there. Because they experience, they can spot trends, they can see where something becomes political, and they need to know that when they do the crucial phase of the sale, which is, let's move this thing to close. So, let technical people do what technical people needs to do. Let the product help us do that. It's crucial. If a product-led sale, the product must do its job. But do not let the salesperson guess what's going on, because you will lose them. And also, what are they going to do when they first meet the customer? They're going to look uninformed. They're going to look ill-prepared, and that's not their fault. That's the company's fault. So that's how we motivate. That's why we motivate people here to stay in the game, because a lot of them are going, am I still needed? Of course you are, just in a different way.
Do you have a fun anecdote or story to share around that, Gus, where maybe it was to close a customer or expand an existing account or prevent them from churning, where you stepped out of the way or you asked your team to step out of the way and things kind of worked?
We have additional products in our company, and we're that kind of company where we have a well-settled product, 15 years old, serve the market, all the procedures are figured out. And then we released a new product, which is very entrepreneurial focused, of course, 2 years ago. And of course, I put my hand up to have double hat, so managing all of that, plus be the evangelic salesperson for the new product, right? So we need to think like total startup in that environment. And to a large degree, we separate the two, because you can't scare people that's been with the company for 7 years and doing things the same way with, we change our mind every second hour. So, I went in, it's like, whoa, this is going to be great. I'm going to be a product-led salesperson. And look, man, I've done many things in my life. I have lots of lists of things I got wrong, and this is one of them. So early days, and I told our CEO and our VP of product, I said, hey, let's do what we did with the first product, right? Let's engage these customers and ask them about, do they want it, do some customer development, all that kind of stuff. And here I was asking questions about, the typical questions, right? Is, how important is the product to your company, and how many people are going to use it, and how many users do you have, and do you have budget for this, or who's going to sign up for this thing? All the normal things you need to find out. We had 3 of those meetings, and all 3 of those customers never spoke to us again. So I'm aware enough to know that there's a problem here, and we sit down, and my CEO looked at me and he said, you got to get out of this, dude, and just right now. And I was like, I want to sell, all that kind of stuff. And begrudgingly, I didn't do it. When they went in, talked technical, talked the right stuff, we found the recipe of talking to these people. So again, I have the scars on the back of thinking, of course I'm a salesperson, of course I'm important, I'm the center of the universe. And meanwhile, the technical person was thinking, I'm not going to talk to this monkey, he's wasting my time, I'll go and talk to somebody else that gives me engineers to talk to. We fixed that quickly, and now we know that Gus must not be in that first call, or if he is, he's going to keep his mouth shut and just listen, because if you go on your sales tantrum, then customer's not going to speak to you. So no real harm done, but yeah, it was a nice lesson to learn, even after all these years, as to when I could be useful and when I'm definitely not. So yeah.
Super fun. Yeah, I'm glad that eventually you closed that customer, so that's a win.
Well, I think I'm lucky because the product really works, and it is really good. So I think the technical people probably managed to show them that, irrespective of the monkey that spoke too much, you will get value out of the product. So it could be drawn back. So yeah, but I mean that's the fun thing, right? You do these things, you get it wrong, etc. You can't let your ego get in here, right? Because my attitude could have been, well, I'm going to be in there. I'm important enough, rather than, no, the customer doesn't need you at this point, so you're going to keep quiet for sure. But that's what I said earlier. I then told them, I need to know what you're doing. So I need the dashboard. I need to understand what's going on here. They gave it to me. It's perfectly fine. But isn't that so much fun when you try something and you fail, and you try something new very quickly and it succeeds? It's just wonderful. I mean, failure is part of the whole game, right? And by the way, my team is set up to know that failure is okay. It's how you respond to it that's very, very, very important. I'm not going to let them fail on $1 million deal. I'm going to hover, and I'm going to make sure that everything works well. But in general, If they maybe mess up something, it's fine. Just tell us. We'll go and fix it. Very few things that you can't fix.
Yeah.
I know I'm
Clarity.
going on and on, but this is such exciting stuff when you deal with these newer worlds. So yeah.
Yeah, I totally know what you mean. Like clarity, I believe often comes from action and not, thinking, hypothesizing, or playing it out in your head. A lot of smart people, I feel like, get in their way by overthinking
Yeah.
often, and taking action is usually the right thing in most cases. Try, experiment, see what happens as a result of it, and you learn something from it way faster than you would by just ruminating over it.
Right. And you're getting out of the building. I mean, we
Yep.
all read Steve Blank. We all read Eric Ries, right? We are getting out of the building. Our opinions are formed because what we think. But no, it needs to be formed on what we hear out there. And if a technical person says, I don't want to talk to that guy, then that's now the rule. He's not talking to that guy. Because that shows that we're going to move forward. So got to get out of the building with these experiments for sure.
Absolutely. Okay, last question for this segment. What would you say to someone who's designing their first go-to-market motion today, first thinking about their end-to-end life cycle, and let's say you were starting afresh and you were starting things from scratch, what would you do differently?
Fortunately, I've been doing that over the last year or so. There is no right and wrong answer. I've learned over the years that certain things you do stop you from learning. So here's the way I think about building a new team or building go-to-market, etc., etc. Learning must be central to this. Anything I assume or hypothesize must be tested. So don't rush to a playbook. Don't go and write on a whiteboard this elaborate, this team, this team, this team, this team. These are all the processes that they're going to be linked with. Give the playbook to the salesperson, give the playbook to the SDR, give the playbook to whoever you need to give it to, because it's a predefined playbook. Don't rush to a playbook. Keep things very simple. So how did we do those early sales? And maybe the go-to-market is, I want to do the early sales, but then you need to keep it simple. It needs to be founders or evangelists or people that can do those sales. But they're hero sales. They are the friends and family, the hero sales, where you have people that know everything and they can answer everything, and that's why they can sell something to a customer. But once we've moved from there, we say we have product market fit, and we know why, scientifically, not dreamt up in a boardroom. We have product market fit because 5 people bought it. They may be your friends. That's not a problem. Why is the customer buying something from you and they desperately want it? That's your product market fit. You have to have a strong view of that. Then you can scale. Okay. So we're going to need to generate some leads. We need an SDR. I fundamentally don't believe in outsourced SDRs or callers. I just don't. I saw an advertisement on LinkedIn yesterday where this company said, you can have your SDR for $1,492 a month as opposed to paying $64 a year for them. What a load of rubbish. Because that person is going to work on 6 customers. They're not going to give their time to you. No, you need an SDR that you can ask to do things. If it doesn't work, you need them to think about how to change it. You need to talk about it. And now you're building your playbook. But you need that strong character. If you don't have money for it, in my opinion, please try and find it. Don't go, I only have $1,000 a month, so I'll hire this guy. You're just going to waste your money. They're going to maybe give you a few leads, but it's not going to happen. Salesperson, can the salesperson do the sale without doing a hero sale? I.e., who do they need around them to actually do this? And what do you want them to say? What is the battle cards you want to give them? Simple. Don't make it complex. They're moving into this thing, right? And that goes to show you how to develop your sales process and all that kind of stuff. I'm talking about we're creating this team from scratch, and we have a new thing, and we're moving forward. And customer success will come once we have customers. It's true that some of the engineers can support them in the first couple of phases when we have 10 or 15 customers. The engineers won't like it, but they have to be it had to be discussed with them. It's like, we want you to do this because we want to see what you do. And then we can create a bit of a playbook and give it to somebody else to do. Then I need a first responder channel to the engineers. If my customer success people can't answer something, I need to throw it in a pot, but I need to know one of them are going to pick it up. I don't want to bother all of them, but they need to have a structure where I have a first responder. And then, of course, support and all those kind of things. But don't rush to a playbook. Make super sure if you build this team, you have product market fit, and understand why you are doing it. And get people on your team that's willing to roll up their sleeves, as opposed to just executing. Because you're not in the phase of executing yet if you build that early go-to-market team. You're in the trenches. Your leaders are in the trenches. Lots of communication all the time, lots of talking. Dashboards are your friend, but they hide all the subtleties that's happening here. Talk to them. There's only 5 or 6 of them. Talk to them all the time. Hear what they're doing. Help them out. Have a dynamic environment. And once you see something that can go to a form of a playbook, then you can start sort of releasing the reins and take it from there. And be careful of appointing experts. People that come to you and says, well, I've closed a $700 million deal here and here and here and here. There's a red flag for me in those early days. Because what they are used to is a structure around them, their supports and all that kind of stuff. No, they're not going to want to roll up their sleeves. You want youngsters. You want people with energy that want to learn. You want postgraduates that you can energize and teach. They may leave you. Don't be afraid of that. You've got all the data, you've learned, and you're scaling your team from there. It's the most fun stage of any of the stages of the startup, when you create that first go-to-market nucleus and you prove you can be successful every time. Now, of course, you're going to lose deals, but I'm not doing 10 calls and 10 processes and losing 9. I'm hitting 50-50. Wow. I mean, hit it into the bleachers. That's just fantastic. Don't expect 100% yet. So, sorry, I'll stop talking, but this is a fun topic. Of all the topics you asked for, this is a very fun topic to create this initial, vibrant little team that's going to set you up for success. It's just wonderful.
It is a very fun topic, and I've consistently heard from everybody this is the most fun stage. So
Yeah.
I am not surprised you said that too. And there's so much wisdom in what you said, Gus, around finding product market fit. I think founder-led sales is the most critical piece at this stage. You cannot do without it. I don't think there is a possibility of finding product market fit without doing founder-led sales for a while. For us at Quibbly, we were very clear we didn't even start building the product until we had a real use case with a real customer, because building in vacuum often leads to just throwing stuff at the wall for a while, which sometimes results in success, often does not. And so for us, like, we spent a lot of time talking to folks like yourself early on and just understanding where are the real issues, where are the burning pain points, what's a real use case that we can solve for today. So thank you so much for all the wisdom. Last segment. So, Gus, we're going to move on to rapid fire. I have 3 questions for you. It's called 3 to 1 close. So, what are 3 underrated products you'd recommend to people in B2B sales?
Gong, definitely. Apollo as a lead generator, definitely. That's the 2 we use. 3, I don't think I can get 3, but those 2 are super useful. I'm discounting the CRM because people have their own opinions. I swear by Salesforce, but yeah, people have their own opinions about HubSpot and all kinds of other things. So,
Got it. So your 3 would be Gong, Apollo, Salesforce.
for sure.
Yeah. Who are 2 thought leaders in B2B sales that more people should be listening to and following?
I actually subscribe, first one, to Harvard Business Review. They have subgroups there where they talk to business leaders, to sales leaders, about empirically proven data that is so wonderful to read. It's very expensive, to subscribe. I think it's $160 or something like that. But it's one of the per year. It's one of the best investments I've made in a while. I don't necessarily subscribe to following this person or this person. I kind of want to have a sort of a mixed view on things. And the other newsletter I subscribe to is Gartner, because Gartner aggregates a lot of findings and experts and people in the field to give you a report. And the nice thing is you don't have to be a Gartner customer. You get fantastic reports for free. See the trends, see what other sales leaders are saying. And they often have these sessions where you can join a CRO or a CEO and they tell you about things. That's kind of real living kind of things. And the reason why I like it is because it's broad. It's not just one person's view or something like that. I'm sure there's many sales gurus out there. I tend to not like following gurus. But yeah, so I like these sort of more broad type of things. Yeah.
Got it. So Harvard Business Review and Gartner would be your two.
They are.
Yeah.
I get their emails every day. Make time in the morning. Get up half an hour earlier than I used to. Read those things. Get some energy out of them. Boy, if these people can do it, I can do it. And then the day can start. Yes, that's the ritual. So that's what I do. Yeah.
And the very last question for you, what's one life hack that's been a game changer for you in B2B sales?
Oh, there's many. As my coach, my personal coach would tell you, there's been quite a few areas that needed to be ironed out, and some actually had to be sort of burned out. But look, it is so important that when you get up in the morning, you want to do what you do. For me, for a long while, I struggled figuring out what that is. I mean, salesperson, but in what, how, with whom, all that kind of stuff. It reduces anxiety. It reduces, a lot of things. It makes you excited about what you're doing. So for a while now, I always evaluate everything that gets put in front of me. Is do I have the skills to do this? Or can I acquire the skills reasonably quickly to do this? And am I going to enjoy this? Now, of course, when somebody is at a sort of a VP or a C-level, you kind of have the ability to craft that. And sometimes when you're a salesperson, you don't. But you can communicate with your manager. You can tell them what you're good at and what you're not good at based on your track record. You can say to them, this gives me energy and this doesn't. Have that conversation. Reduce the anxiety. Don't let people put expectations on you that comes from them. I had sales jobs like that. You're going to have a $2 million target this year, and this is what you're going to do. Well, where's the conversation? Can this market support the $2 million? I didn't ask those questions. I just ran myself ragged, get more gray hair than I needed to. And that is not necessary. Make sure that you set up for success, and make sure that you somewhat, if it's not 100%, that it's enjoyable somewhat, and that you can get pleasure out of it.
That's really great advice. This was packed with real insights from your lived experience, my favorite kind of insight. So thank you for breaking down how you think about systems, scale, sanity in revenue functions. And now, where can people learn more about what you're up to, or if they wanted to get in touch with you?
Oh, well, I guess LinkedIn, Gus Byleveld, it's my handle. You can see it at the bottom of the screen. Or you can email me. I will probably give you the email that's the easiest to remember. So it's gus@thewandering.net. Otherwise, nudge me on LinkedIn. Love to talk to people that have their own opinions and growth and all that kind of stuff. By no means do I want this to sound like I know everything and this is the silver bullet or all that kind of stuff. Not at all. Just wanted to share some of the experiences I've had, some of the things that works and doesn't work, and would welcome having conversations with other like-minded people. More experience, less, doesn't matter. But different thoughts are always great to hear and talk about.
Amazing. Thanks. That's a wrap, folks. If you want to get in touch with Gus, reach out to him on LinkedIn. or at gus@thewondering.net. So thank you so much, and I'll see you later.